Don't make unnecessary journeys.
What is that? What's that whole thing? Don't make unnecessary journeys. Don't something.
Hello, I'm not even typing. Okay.
Don't make unnecessary journeys. Don't take risks on treacherous roads. And don't swim in the sea.
Risks on treacherous roads.
And don't swim in the sea.
Don't take risks on treacherous roads. Okay.
Me every time it snows.
Yeah, same.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the What Was That podcast. I'm Jazzy.
And I'm Addi.
Do you ever get in the zone of just not wanting to go anywhere?
Yes, like every single day. Sometimes leaving the house sounds like the actual worst.
Well, these stories aren't going to help that. In fact, I'm going to make you want to stay inside and don't take unnecessary journeys.
Don't take treacherous path. What is that? I can't even
Don't drive on treacherous roads. What the fuck was it? We just listened to it. We'll just put her voice here.
Don't make unnecessary journeys.
Story numero uno. Don't go to the gas station at night. I stupidly made the decision to go get gas at 11 p.m. one night because I didn't make time to go before work. So as I'm pulling up to the gas station, there were a couple of cars at the pumps, which I sort of felt relieved about and more safe to go in. I was wrong, so I go inside to pay the clerk, and I'm using cash. As I'm going to the pump to put the gas in, most of the cars are already leaving except this one truck parked 2 pumps behind me. I get in the car and wait for my gas to be filled, and I'm on the phone, and all of a sudden I see the guy walking around the front of my car very suspiciously. I sort of glance up to see what he was doing, but at this point, I made eye contact with him. Shit. He then proceeds to ask if I have change for gas, and I nod no, sorry. He says, okay, that's cool. Hey, do you want me to remove your gas pump for you? I say, no good, I'm fine. No good. No good, thanks. No, my brain started thinking, I was like, I wasn't doing voices on these ones. You guys are missing out. I say, no, I'm good, thanks. At this point, my gas is filled up and he knows. He's kind of fidgety as well and walks away behind my car. I'm trying not to glance back and be subtle about looking where he is because I don't want to alarm him with how terrified I am. In my head, I'm thinking, how can I leave my car with him still around my car? He's out of sight, and at this point, no one is in the lot. I'm waiting until another car pulls up. 5 minutes later, nothing. So my fight or flight response is really kicking my ass on what I should do next. It's really cold out. I haven't turned my car on because the pump is still in my car, and I don't know where the man is at. Finally, I see him walk towards the truck, but not entering it, just around it. But as soon as his back is towards me, I go for it. I take the pump out, and he notices and quickly approaches me and says, oh, hey, you're really beautiful. Still walking toward me, I nod and quickly but subtly put my gas cap on. And he says, I don't look like a serial killer, do I? Huh? With this crazed look in his eyes, like, yeah, motherfucker, you actually do. At this point, I bolted to my car and drove off quickly. So ladies, avoid gas stations at night or carry some sort of protection because I sure as hell will from now on, and I learned my lesson. It wasn't as bad as it sounds, but it definitely could have taken a different turn of events if I had done things differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so funny. Do I look like a serial killer?
I was also yes. I'm sorry, what does a serial killer look like? Should you be wearing a mask and wielding a fucking machete before I get
just
scared?
Ghostface.
Yeah, right? No, the fucking Jeffrey Dahmer was a decent-looking human. Ted Bundy was a literal womanizer because he was a decent-looking human being. Mm-hmm. So nobody expected them to be absolute psychopath serial killers.
Yeah.
So, no, you might not be a typical one, but you look fucking terrifying.
You're being weird, you're doing weird shit, and you see this girl, she's obviously trying to, like, get away from you, and you clock that.
Yeah.
Which is why you ask, what do I look like, a serial killer? Which maybe it means, oh, I'm just gonna get back in my car and go.
Yeah.
Because I was weird about that.
Yeah, if it looks like a duck, it talks like a duck, it walks like a duck, then it's a serial killer. Obviously.
Yeah. Yep. I hate this story. That's scary.
I don't really like going and getting gas at night anyway.
I don't either.
I have to get it on my way to work in the morning. And as you know, I go to work very, very early. So it's usually really dark. So I am already really paranoid because I know how quick it is to like for somebody to come in, grab you, pick you up, put you in a car and drive away. So I always get out. I have my keys. I have my phone. I shut my door. I lock my car. Then I get gas and I stand in between the pump and my car.
Yeah.
So that way no one can just come up and like snatch me.
Yeah.
And then, you know, surveil while I'm pumping, while it's doing its little, you know, I'm surveilling. And then I get into my car. Isn't that great? A life of a woman.
So fun. Just easy little things like putting gas in your car.
As I'm describing that, I'm literally thinking about how different our experiences are. Last night, Quinn and I were playing games with Alex online, and I started singing A Part of Your World, and Alex was singing it with me, but Quentin was just like, huh. And in my head, as I'm singing it, I'm thinking to myself, wow, what different experiences and childhoods we had, because I grew up singing these Disney songs at the top of my lungs as a child. Yeah. And he was probably Go Go Power Rangers like the entire time. Or singing the Pokemon song, which I don't know, again, because different
different interest as children.
Different upbringings, but different experiences. Man, woman. Man, go to gas station.
Totally fine.
Totally fine. Yeah. Doesn't even think. Totally oblivious to the world.
Yeah. Well, my dad does that all the time. He'll like, I got nothing else to do. It's like 9 o'clock. I'm not tired. I'm just going to drive to the gas station, put gas in the car. Meanwhile, I'm like...
What an odd thing.
Oh, it's winter and it's 5:30 and it's dark outside. I guess I'm staying in. Yeah. I'm not going anywhere.
Unless I am in the protection of someone else. Because while I do try to carry protection with myself and do try to keep, like, precautions to save myself, put in that situation, if I have to fight for my life... I don't want to do that. You know, so I'd much rather, as shitty as it is, have a man accompany me. Yeah. So I'm not scared for my life the whole time.
I will say, my fight or flight response used to be to just like freeze and fall down. Yeah. Not great. I'm very proud to say that it has changed.
Into fight.
Into just straight fight. Yeah. Because, Lee likes to do this little thing where he just like pops out and scares me. And I got to his house. I was like parked in my car. I was responding to a text message before going in, so I wasn't paying attention. And then I looked and his face was right there. I punched my windshield glass. I like literally looked over, hit it. And I was like, what the fuck, Lee? And he's like, okay, so in retrospect, that was a bad idea. And I was like, yeah, don't do that.
He's almost gotten hit like 5 times
He has gotten hit 5 times. He has gotten hit.
I don't know why he thinks, Lee, if you're listening to this, why do you keep doing it? Yeah. You know what the definition of insanity is? Doing something the same time and expecting different results.
It reminds me of, there's an episode of Friends where I think it's Rachel and Phoebe start taking self-defense classes. And Ross starts, like, popping out and seeing if they have... It's, like, unagi.
Okay.
Basically making sure they can defend themselves. And I think he does it to the wrong people one time. And they beat him up.
See? So fuck around, find out.
Fuck around, find out.
Yeah. We do need to start taking self-defense classes, though. After I'm healed from my surgery, we'll take self-defense classes.
I would really like that.
I would too. I think I'd be very good at it. Hi-ya.
I just really like hitting things too.
Same. It's all the feminine rage. Yeah. We need a way to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Go Power Ranger. I want to be the pink one.
This doesn't matter, so we can cut it out. But in kindergarten, I always wanted the pink one, and this girl, Laura, was always the pink one. So I had to be the yellow one. It made me real bitter.
I would be bitter too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Valid. You're valid for being bitter.
Thank you. Yeah. I never let it go.
I wouldn't either. That would be something I'd be like, at least switch with me every now and then. Can I be
Shake
pink
it up.
sometimes?
Mm-hmm.
Every other time. But yeah, no, that's so scary. I also, again, don't go get gas by myself because unless I absolutely have to.
Yeah.
And I'd always do it with extreme precaution because people are scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a OP, I'm just like going through the comments a little bit, and they said there's a lot of human trafficking in their area.
There's a lot of human trafficking everywhere.
Yeah. A lot of people just saying like, absolutely not. I will not go to a gas station at night. And they all agree this was really fucking creepy and he was just trying to be a weirdo and make you uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate being at gas stations. They're so gross.
They gross me out. They make me feel weird.
I have literally one time, and this has nothing to do with it, but there was a time when I lived in Texas, I went to this gas station that was not far from my house. I literally went inside, went back outside. My friend was still inside. He comes out like fast walking to the car. I will never forget this. Fast walking to the car, gets in the car, puts it in drive and starts driving away. And I was like, dude, what's wrong? Yeah. And he said, oh, some guy just walked in and started robbing it. He's like, he walked in with a gun. I said, bye, and walked out.
Fair.
I literally was like, no fucking way did that just happen. He's, yep, it sure did.
Wild.
Yeah. Yeah, and literally he was like, I looked at him walking in the mirror. I was like, why is he walking like that? But
oh my God. Yeah. Unnecessary journey. Do not do
it. No need to go fill gas in the middle of the night.
Just let your car run out of gas and get stuck on the side of the road and then write that Reddit story so we can read it.
Yeah, that one's more entertaining. No, just kidding. Story 2. Neighbor scratching on my apartment door in the middle of the night. Last Sunday, I was putting together a new dresser I had bought in the rear bedroom of my apartment. The door was open and I could see down the main hallway into the living room where my fiance was standing with 2 kids while they were playing. This was about 7:30 p.m. A knock comes to the door. My 6-year-old runs to the door and opens it, even though he knows he's not supposed to. We're working on this. He was coming down from his birthday party excitement and just went for it, probably thinking someone else was stopping by for his party, even though it was long over. A woman is at the door. I recognize her as an upstairs neighbor from the other side of the building. She says she needs help and walks straight into my apartment. She began frantically talking nonsense, saying she was locked out of the building. She's in the building. Saying she can get into her apartment, but she couldn't get in the building. Then, in the same breath, saying she can't get into her apartment. She appears extremely disoriented and keeps saying she's just so exhausted or really tired over and over again. She appears very out of it. Not balancing very well, speech pattern is sloppy, appears to be in some sort of light daze. To me, immediately it appeared that she was having some sort of episode. As soon as I stepped foot near her, I could tell something fishy was going on. She continued to talk in circles and not make any sense, saying her parents were going to be so worried if she didn't check in with them. She lives alone. She begins repeatedly asking us to call numbers for her. Her phone is in her hand, on the video record setting, but I can see it's not recording. She is rolling something in her pocket over and over. It appears to be a screwdriver. As she is telling my fiance numbers to dial, she cannot come up with the numbers. Every phone number she's giving us to call for help was multiple digits short. They were not phone numbers. Then, when I said that's not enough numbers to make a phone number, she would switch to a different phone number and then stop halfway through saying it. This happened about 7 to 8 times, and finally, I had enough. She kept saying her phone wasn't working, so I had to let her try to use my phone, but she ended up just standing there holding it, not using it, just holding on to it, continuously talking nonsense. I'm thoroughly uncomfortable at this point and very upset that this woman had entered my apartment without invitation and is acting this way around my children. I tell my fiance to take the kids to the back of the house and try to coax the woman out by saying, let's go check your apartment. Come with me. We'll see if it's open. I try to lead her out of my apartment, but she says she's so exhausted and needs to sit down and proceeds to just sit on my couch in my living room. I'm not thrilled with this. In fact, I'm livid, but I keep my cool and realize I'm dealing with crazy. My fiance flanks her from the back so she can't get further into the apartment and near the children again. I continue trying to coax her out. After about 5 minutes of trying to convince her to leave our apartment and come with me to check hers out, she finally walks ever so slowly out of our basement apartment. I'm a stairway ahead of the woman already, telling her to follow me up to her apartment. On the way to the apartment, she attempts to get into 2 other apartments that are not hers. I tell her each time that that's not hers. When I arrived at her apartment, the door is wide open. She has not caught up with me yet, so I take a quick glance inside the door. The couch cushions are thrown everywhere, and the living room is looking torn up and turned upside down. She arrives behind me and tries again to get into another neighbor's unit across the halls from hers. I tell her that's not her apartment, but hers is here and is wide open. Finally, I get her to go inside, and when she does, she apologizes to me saying, "I'm sorry, this is how we had to meet. I'm just so exhausted." I say it's okay and quickly head back downstairs to my apartment. I have such an uneasy feeling that I decide to call the cops and let them know. Some woman who I have never spoken to before showed up at my door asking for help acting disoriented. They say they will send someone to check on her. An hour later, the police arrive and knock on the door. No answer, they leave. 4:15 rolls around. My 6-year-old son and 1-year-old daughter have been asleep through the night, as myself and my fiance have. I get up to use the bathroom. As I'm using the bathroom, I hear a light knock on the apartment door. So light, I actually second-guessed if I heard it. I called out to my fiance to ask her if she heard a knock at the door too. She says she didn't hear it. We both head towards the living room together just to see if we hear anything. No sooner do we step foot in the living room than we hear a scratching at our front door. The unmistakable sound of someone clawing at your door is not something I wish for anyone to hear in the middle of the night. It's truly horrifying. I tell my fiance to be with the kids and make sure they're okay. I open the door to find the woman from earlier standing at the top of the flight of the stairs in front of my apartment, just looking down and staring at the door. It's fucking terrifying. So I told her, no fucking way are we doing this shit. Proceeded to call her a crazy bitch and tell her to get the fuck away from my apartment and stay away from my family. I also told her I'm calling the cops right now. She scurries away out of sight, presumably back to her apartment. I immediately call the police. They show up and ask her all of the mental health questions, which she apparently answered adequately, so they said there's nothing they can do. This woman was clearly in some sort of state and is now harassing me and my family, disturbing our peace and the safety of my children. They told her to stay away from us, and I haven't seen her in a week since then. But I can't help but continue to think about it. Ever since the first time she entered the apartment acting crazy, I have this pit in my stomach and this uneasy feeling that whatever it is not over. I still do not know what was going on, and it makes me feel so uneasy. I do not know what to make of it. Our neighbor, who we're cool with, said that her doorknob was being jiggled by someone in the middle of the night. Putting 2 and 2 together, I know it was this crazy woman. It's got me sick. The complex sent her a warning that this behavior is unacceptable, but I really don't know what to do or how to feel. My first instinct is to respond with anger and physically defend myself and my family. Input is welcome and appreciated.
I don't think you can go beat her up.
No,
but I get why you would want to.
Okay, so I don't know. I haven't read all the comments, but I am wondering, because they said this happened at night and it's an elderly woman, if this could be like dementia or Alzheimer's, because there's that thing called sundowning.
Okay, interesting.
Which is after the sun goes down, dementia and Alzheimer patients usually experience sundowning. Again, sun goes down, their symptoms get worse and they get more irritable. Okay. So a good, I can't say an example. There's a movie called The Taking of Deborah Logan. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's a scary movie. These people go to kind of study this sundown effect because it's a widespread problem with elderly people who have these illnesses. That's what they're called, right? Illnesses. Yeah. With people who have these illnesses, so they go there and basically it's like a demon. But the whole thing is that after the sun goes down, your symptoms get worse and you start getting more confused and you start getting agitated and you start getting aggressive. So that's why people, after they like have that, they start getting kind of weird.
Yeah.
So the knocking on the door, it's the scratching on the door is definitely something that I would think kind of goes hand in hand with that because she's confused. She doesn't really know what's going on. And add on top of that she probably is sick.
Yeah. Just constantly going to the wrong door.
Which is really sad. Yeah. Like that's what I would think it is.
There's another comment that kind of backs up your thoughts. With her saying that she's going to be so worried, that her parents are going to be so worried if she doesn't check in, I'm wondering if she's developing Alzheimer's or dementia.
That's
she would
what I
most
thought
likely
too.
be fine.
Yeah.
Except for she was having an episode. Yep. Specifically bring up sundowning.
Yeah. And that's what because I thought the same thing when she said, I have to tell my parents. I immediately was like, oh, no. Oh, she's struggling. And she definitely needs care for sure. She doesn't need to be living in an apartment building with a bunch of strangers because that is dangerous. It does. Sundowning does get dangerous because they get so aggressive. Yeah. So another thing, having the screwdriver in the pocket is like another like, oh, don't like that. So, have you seen The Visit?
I don't think so.
It's that scary movie about those kids that get dropped off at their parents or their grandparents.
Oh, their grandparents.
But they've never met them.
Seen it. No.
Okay.
But I know exactly the movie you're talking about.
It's so funny. It's a good, like, silly, scary movie.
Okay.
But that's another thing. In that movie, they try to be like, oh, don't come out after it gets dark because grandma has Alzheimer's and she gets sundowning syndrome or whatever it's called. So don't come out because you'll see some really weird stuff. And so the mom is like, oh, yeah, that's like a normal thing. Like, it's really bad. Just like keep to yourself.
Yeah.
But it's not, obviously. It's plot twist.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I would think it is. Obviously, I'm not a professional, so.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because, like, other comments are like, she's possessed by a demon. Which, maybe. But I do think, if we're staying in the realm of reality.
Yeah, I do. That's what I would think. I would think that it is just, like, a really sick woman who needs help.
Yeah.
And
I will say the start of this story very much reminded me of my neighbor.
I kept looking over at you.
Substantially younger. I don't think there's any Alzheimer's happening there. And then they did it a second time. So,
do you want to give a little recap, a short recap for our listeners who haven't listened before?
Basically, this story until the person, like, she came into my apartment, used my phone, fell asleep on my couch, and I just kind of sat there for 4 hours, not looking at anything, just like, okay, well.
And threatened to punch whoever came to unlock her apartment. Yeah. Let's not forget the violence.
That. May have mentioned, oh yeah, I never hear you over here. Like, you could be getting murdered, and I would have no idea. I'm like,
Metal Gear Solid sound.
My brain went to the same place this one. I was like, okay, I'm dealing with crazy. Do not tempt crazy. Just get through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my suggestion, obviously, along with a lot of other people who were talking, who were commenting in this as well, is doorbell camera. Yeah. Obviously. Some other form of safety lock so your kid can't open the door. And definitely if she keeps coming to your door having that camera footage, especially if you are trying to get her help, because personally, I think that's where the narrative should be shifted instead of being like, oh, this is so crazy. She's crazy. She's crazy. I want to beat her up.
Right.
I think the better narrative would to view it as somebody who needs help, somebody who is sick, somebody who's unwell, needs help. And obviously the cops aren't going to do anything because they never fucking are useful. But
this person said calling a paramedic next time would be more qualified to
or fire
diagnose
station.
someone.
Yeah. Nobody trusts cops to diagnose any sort of anything.
No.
They're going to try to shoot somebody while they got called to a cat being stuck in a tree. So,
yep.
I think the poor old lady just needs.
Yeah, I think she
needs to go into like a.
She's in either like in the full swings of something or early stages of something, and especially if she does live alone, there's no one with her to be like, hey,
exactly,
something weird happened last night. You should get that checked out. She's just kind of going through it. You know?
And another thing is that again with sundowning is during the day they can seem totally normal. So if the police are coming to question her during the day, of course she's going to give normal answers because she doesn't think anything's wrong. Yeah. And when you have dementia or Alzheimer's, you don't realize that anything's wrong. So, I mean, she's, having to find time during the day. At night, she's struggling. There's no one there to help her. Yeah. She needs to be put in like a assisted living, unfortunately, and that's really sad.
One comment that says, pharmacists are the cuntiest people I've ever met.
Period.
Yeah, I don't see anything else about this scenario of them. So this was like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So.
Well, OP, this is my advice to you. Of course, obviously protect your family because family is very, 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 very important to protect. Your kids' safety is number one overall. Yeah. But I suggest looking at it from an angle of empathy. Yeah. Yeah. So not like you have to take my fucking I'm irrelevant to you. I just read your story and that's what I have to say about it.
Yeah, no, I do think that is a very compelling theory.
I think you did a great job.
Worth looking into.
Yeah, I think you did a great job of getting her back to her apartment and trying to alleviate the situation. Yeah. And telling your property about it and talking to your neighbors about it.
Yeah.
But
there's definitely a paper trail. Yeah. Which is good.
Yeah. So, but don't resort to violence. No violence to old lady.
Probably not a great. There's this book that I've read with Bettina and my Nana. We had a little book club. That's called An Elderly Woman is Up to No Good. And she's a serial killer, 1,000%. Oh,
nice.
The whole book is her just like. And then Bethany pissed me off. I didn't like the way she laughed, so here's how I killed her. And then I act like a crazy little senile old woman. And then people were like, oh, that's okay. Let's just get you on out of here. And she's like killing people left and right. And then the detective that keeps showing up is just like, it's strange that you're always here. So it goes into a bit of a cat and mouse dance.
Interesting.
I can find it and give it to you.
That sounds super fun.
Yeah. Story number 3. Did he time travel? I'm going to try to make this story short and get to the point. Now, I don't know if I can make this a scary story or not. I was visiting family members in Mexico. This happened exactly on December 25th, maybe the year 2019 or 2020. I was at my uncle's ranch, and me and my cousins decided to mess around, going into the cemetery to scare each other to see if we would freak out. The cemetery is down the road from my uncle's ranch, just a 10-minute walk. We got to the cemetery and had a fun little night. It's a fun little time.
Just a fun little night.
As we were leaving, this 8-year-old boy, definitely not one of my cousins, appeared running behind us at full speed, crying. We all screamed because we got scared and thought it was paranormal shit. But no, this was actually a boy. Being there for almost an hour, we never saw this kid. We took him home with us, and he said he was playing hide and seek with his siblings during the day and hid in in an abandoned room.
You just made me spiral for a split second. That was weird.
Yeah, I was like, I can't say that. My tongue can't do it.
In an abandoned room.
He was playing hide and go seek with his siblings earlier during the day and hid inside of an abandoned room. When he got out from his hiding spot, he said it was already dark and saw us leaving and ran to find us. I find it weird because we were all in the same abandoned room, but he wasn't inside. Okay. We got him food and water, and the next morning we drove him to the city to turn him into the police. We stayed longer for the investigation. I couldn't believe what the police told us. The kid we'd found had been missing for over 15 years. They even showed us an old list on a computer of missing kids from the early 2000s. His name and his picture were there. We look back at the kid, and it's the same kid. He was somehow still the same age. His parents got a call and we left the police station. I remember seeing a family walking out with him crying, hugging him. I don't know how this could happen, but I'm just happy the kid got reunited with his family.
Huh.
I wonder if he just has a bit of a baby face.
Yeah, right. It's
like
actually just a kid, but he just has a baby face. That is real. That's crazy, though. If that was the same thing, not that it wouldn't be, but I wouldn't even know an explanation for that because, like,
imagine it is just someone who has a bit of a baby face. Their face didn't change much over time. They haven't been in the sun for 15 years, so they don't have wrinkles, I'm imagining. You were just in that room that they said that they escaped from, hanging out with your friends, playing around. So if they were kidnapped by someone and put into that room, and I'd be so sick to my stomach. Just
I know
queasy.
Because if they were kidnapped and they followed that kid followed them out and was like, oh my God, help me.
Yeah.
Like somebody finally found me, help me. And maybe from all the trauma, that's all they remember is playing hide and seek. And then maybe if they were kidnapped in a logical thinking stance, if they were kidnapped, and hypothetically, if they were drugged, that could be the last thing that they fully remember and then kind of trauma blocked everything else out. But they knew that they didn't need to be there, so they were following them out. And maybe they just didn't want to tell the kids everything that happened either because they're other kids and they don't want these kids to, like, be freaked out.
So apparently, let me look up what this is. Because this took place in Mexico. Hello. OP said their first thought was, how do you say that?
A duende?
Duendes.
Duendes. Yeah, so OP's like, it could be this. It's a tale in Mexico that if you come across them, they'll give you gold money. But it feels like seconds when you're with them, so many years passes without you realizing it. This boy never mentioned anything about them, but they could be misremembering.
Yeah.
So, could be
I want to know
mystical.
more about the boy.
Right?
I need to
I
know
have
more
questions.
because I want to know what his parents thought. I want to know if he was still the same age and maybe that's a thing, or if I want to know if he did grow and he just has baby face. Were his parents old when they walked into the station? How old were his parents looking?
Yeah. Also, I want to know at what point in time, because sometimes when kids get kidnapped, they'll do a rendering of what they would look like when they're older. So it is possible that that's what OP saw. And they're like, oh yeah, you look like that, because it was a decent prediction of what the child would look like, and they got kidnapped.
And this is in
younger.
2019, 2020, so they definitely have that technology of facial rendering.
Yeah, if I've learned anything from CSI, they should have that. So,
Yep. But yeah, that's weird. That's weird as fuck.
it's such a weird little story.
It's not terrifying. See, I didn't say it's terrifying. That's weird. That's weird as fuck. That's so
do not
insane.
make unnecessary journeys into cemeteries. Do not make unnecessary journeys to play hide and go seek with your friends because you think it's going to be a fun, silly little time. But
in
really,
an abandoned place.
Yeah, don't go to abandoned places. They're kind of cool sometimes.
They're kind of cool.
They're kind of
And like
cool.
once we get enough subscribers, we'll go to an abandoned place.
Yeah, share with your friends so we can go to abandoned places.
Don't you want to see us get scared and be little babies?
I'm such a baby.
Same.
Don't you want to
especially-
see someone pop out and try to spook me and I hit him?
Yeah, right. That's how yep. Don't you want to see us be crazy little goblins?
After all our self-defense classes.
Story 4. Creepy Stalker. That's all it's called. This happened to me about 6 years ago. I was doing my usual routine of walking around town for a few hours as I enjoyed walking and I was getting my steps in for the day. I'd always start from my house, walk around the town for a few hours, then turn around and head back home. I'd always go walking around noon for an hour or two at the least. My walks would start at 11 a.m. on the earliest or 2 p.m. at the latest. This day in particular, I had a bunch of things to do, so I was unable to go out walking before noon. I'd eventually finished everything up that I needed to, but it was already in the mid to late afternoon. I checked the time, and it was almost 3 p.m. I debated whether or not I should go walking or if I should go tomorrow instead, since I had nothing going on the next day. I said fuck it and decided to go for my walk, but I told myself that I had to cut it short since I didn't want to be out after sunset since it got pretty cold at night. I got dressed and headed out to get my walk in for the day. Fast forward almost 3 hours later, I looked at my phone to check the time and saw it was almost 6 p.m. and started to make my way back home. I had a bit of a problem. I was about 6 miles away from my house and it would take me about an hour and a half or more to get there. The sun had fully gone down and there was only a faint orange glow in the sky from it. The night sky had begun to take over and the air was turning cold. I began to make my way home and had picked up the pace as I didn't want to be outside when it was cold. I was about 2 miles away from my home and thought I was in the clear. I was wrong. I passed by a convenience store when I noticed a man sitting on the side of the building smoking a cigarette. The man looked to be in his early to mid-30s, wore a black hoodie, black pants, and black shoes. I saw him turn his head towards me and he gave me a blank stare. I thought nothing of it and just ignored it. I turned around a few moments later and saw he had gotten up from his spot and began walking the same direction I was going. I kept checking behind me often to see if he would turn down another street, but he never did. After several minutes of him walking the same way as me, I heard the man start yelling.
Hey.
He then started saying other stuff to try to get my attention, which I ignored. Right after that, I heard him yell,
What the fuck?
at me in an angry tone. I sped up and didn't dare to look back at that point. I texted my dad and explained that there's some creepy guy following me and how he was yelling at me. My dad replies asking me how far I am, and I say less than a mile away. He replies back to keep walking, don't worry, and that I'll come get me in the next few minutes. I turn behind me to see if he's still following as he stopped yelling, and he was, unfortunately. I was 3/4 of a mile away from my house, and I thought about just running there. At the same time, I didn't want this guy to follow me and find out where I lived. I was about to turn down the street I lived at when something told me not to. I texted my dad and told him I passed the street and to go the other way, which he replied, okay. I kept going forward, passing the street, when all of a sudden I heard some kind of frantic noise. I turned around, only to my horror to see that the guy had put his hood up and was sprinting straight towards me. Without hesitation, I bolted straight ahead and ran across the street. I kept running for what felt like hours until I saw a pair of headlights coming down the street. I waved my arms like a madman, hoping they would see me. Thankfully, they did, and the car stopped. I got closer and saw it was my dad. I looked behind me only to see that the man who was chasing me had somehow disappeared. I got in the car and explained everything to him. He said he was going to drive down the street to see if he could find the man and would confront him. We drove down the street only to see nobody walking on the sidewalk or hiding behind bushes. There was no sign of anyone being on the streets. From that day on, I never go out walking past 2 p.m. I since then carry a pocket knife with me whenever I go out walking for my own safety and protection. I don't know what that man would have done to me had he caught me, and I don't think I ever want to know. Okay, how do you go on a walk and just forget that you're walking for 3 hours?
So I do that. Which I understand what you're saying, but 1,000%, I will just like go on like long walks and wander the city and have a great time. And there has been times when I'm like, oh, I gotta walk back.
Yeah.
And then.
Yeah. For me, I'm like always looking at the sun.
Yeah.
So if I was walking and I only planned to be out for an hour or two because I knew it was so late, and if I started seeing the sun go down even a little bit, I'd be like, oh, it's time to turn around and run back. But yeah, I guess I'll give you that.
I'll just be walking around, wandering, going into shops, having a nice little time.
Well, they're just walking.
Yeah.
They're just walking, enjoying nature, which I guess is nice. I do like a good nature walk. But if you are already frantic about time, how do you just lose track of it?
I do. I'm glad you're carrying around a pocket knife now. I will also recommend, put a picture of the spray that my mom gave me. It's like, we're not sponsored, obviously. Bad guy spray, but like you spray it on them.
Oh, is it the color?
Like, yeah, it's like a color, and it like stays on them for a long time. Yeah. And it's also like pepper spray. So I like carry that with me, and I have pocket knives in every single one of my purses. If I've gone on a date with you in the last 5 years, best to believe I had a knife in my purse. So
yeah, as you should.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am glad that your dad was able to get there so fast. And I'm glad that it was so close, and good for you for not turning down your street. So, but I am curious why they started running after you passed your own street. That's an interesting.
Yeah. I wonder like what the layout is of like street lights and things like that.
Yeah, because that definitely takes a big toll on it. But I hate how men just think that they're entitled to some sort of interaction. Like the OP's walking and he says, hey, and gets upset because OP doesn't say anything back. Like, why is OP entitled to say anything?
Yeah, why? Go talk to someone else.
Yeah, like, no. You literally came up on this person as they're walking home, and you want them to acknowledge you for what? They don't know you. They don't owe you anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, good for you for getting your steps in. Love that. But also good for you for trusting your gut and keeping walking, keeping running, not looking back, yeah,
good for you for getting yourself out of that.
What's the word? Involving yourself, I guess. Yeah. Not involving yourself in that situation, because who knows what he would have done if you had stopped and tried to talk to him at all.
Right.
Because he obviously was on one that night. I wonder what he did after. Where do you think he went?
He walked home.
Just walked home. Where does he live? He was at a gas station smoking a cigarette. Who does that?
But this commenter says, as a woman who jogs, the biggest piece of advice I can give: vary your routes, vary your times, tell someone where you're going and when you expect to be back. If you have a smartphone, there are free apps that allow someone to track your route. Addison can see where I'm at.
Life 360.
Yeah. I'm a little Tamagotchi.
I gotta check in and feed it. But I do the same thing with like hiking, because not even just, I mean, creepy people, but also just being out. You never know what's going to happen.
127 hours.
Yeah, something could come up and bite your leg off, and then you're stuck in the middle of nowhere bleeding out. So it is always good to have somebody know where you're at. But that's all I got to say. That's some scary shit. Yeah. Men are so scary.
I hate them.
No. And I'm glad that you're okay. And I hate that, you know what? I hate for you, and I hate for us too, that we can't just go out and have a walk at night without feeling like it's going to end our lives.
Yeah, not even that late at night, like evening. I was walking to
6 o'clock.
I took Jazz 101, which I was very excited to take, but it started at 5:30 and ended at 6:30. I'm like, it's going to be dark. And it's 2 blocks away from my house, so realistically, I could drive there, have to park 5 blocks away, and then walk. Or I could just walk. But yeah, I had my little bad guy spray, I had my pocket knife, and then I was on the phone with Lee. I was like, hey, so I don't really need to talk about anything at all.
I just want you to be on the phone.
But yeah, just in case.
Yeah.
Logistically, I think you're going to be able to get to me the soonest. Because he lives closer than you and he lives closer to Bettina.
Yeah, I've started to have a problem where I don't trust. I mean, I don't know if it's a problem. I guess it is. But I just don't trust anyone walking behind me now.
No.
So if there's like, perfect example, we went to see Nosferatu over the last week. And as we're walking into the theater, there's this guy walking behind us. I don't see anything about him besides the fact that he's wearing like a sweater.
Yeah.
And so I look behind us and that's all I see. Man walking, sweater, hood up. It's cold outside.
Yeah.
Okay? It's cold. There's snow on the ground. I get it.
Yeah.
We just got a snowstorm that day. Like, I get it. So, guys walking behind Quentin and I, we're walking into the movie theater. I'm picking up the pace. I'm power walking at this point, walking into the door, literally like, Quentin's like, God, slow down. I'm like, it's cold.
Right, let's get out of here.
Let's walk inside. Quentin holds the door open for this guy, and the guy pulls his hood down and walks in, and he's like, thanks, guy. I was like,
It's because we can't have nice things.
it's because we constantly have to live in fear.
We have to be vigilant.
We have to be hyper vigilant, because if we're not, bad things happen because bad men are bad men.
Did I ever tell you about mom mixing up vigilant and vigilante?
No, but that's really funny. It's like a New Girl skit or something.
She's from and they live out on a farm and one of their neighbors was murdered. And so she's talking to the sheriff. The police officer said, stay vigilant. She heard stay vigilante. And she's going on patrol. She has like her big German Shepherd. She's got her pistol. She's like, all right, let's see what happens. And the sheriff is like, okay, maybe we don't do that, but let's stay vigilant. So when she's telling us this story at dinner, she's like, yeah, he told me to stay vigilante. So I'm going to do my patrols. I've got my gun. It's loaded. I'm ready. Like, stay vigilante. That doesn't sound like a thing a police would tell you to do when there's a murderer running around and you're like a 90-pound woman soaking wet. Like, that doesn't sound right. And goes, did you mean vigilant? And she's like, yeah, that's what I said. Vigilante. She's like, that's different.
Totally different words.
Yeah.
I could see why you would think that, but actually they have completely separate connotations.
Yeah. I don't know if that guy was ever found. I need to ask. Hey, B. Did
they ever find that guy? Did the vigilance help them get the vigilante?
Yeah, did you get vigilanted? So yeah, see, after all that, I just want to stay inside. I don't want to go anywhere.
But like in our second story, what if they came to your door?
So I think I have learned my lesson in regards to that, and I will actually not be opening my door again.
Well, while we're staying our happy little butts home, don't forget to follow us on TikTok, Reddit, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all at _the pod. Like, comment, share, all of that. All of our numbers obviously help, so please do that. Don't forget to email us as well at whatwasthat.thepod@gmail.com. Stay safe, stay inside. Wait, what was it? Do not make unnecessary journeys. Do not travel on roads. I can't remember what it's called. Don't take risks on treacherous roads and don't swim in the sea. Wait, what was that?